What's up guys, Andre here, and today I'd like to take a look at NativePHP. NativePHP allows you to create native desktop applications using PHP and Laravel and all of the tooling around the ecosystem. You can think of it as a wrapper around Electron, but it also has support for bundling your app with Tauri, which is similar to Electron but written in Rust and usually results in a much smaller application size. NativePHP is another project by Marcel Potziot and the Beyond Code team and was just launched at Laracon US. Be sure to check out Marcel's talk at Laracon, which I will link to in the description below. So NativePHP is still in early stages and marked as an alpha release, as seen in the documentation here. There are bugs, but it's actively being worked on and new versions are being released quickly. So we'll take a look at some of NativePHP's features and eventually build out an example app, which I have running here. We are pulling from the Reddit API. It's a subreddit that shows cute dog pictures. And you can see we have thumbnails here. We have the number of upvotes, the number of comments. And if you click into it, we'll get a bigger image. Okay, and we also have preferences here. So we can change the theme to dark mode. So again, all of this is built with Laravel and all of the tools you're familiar with, but it's running in a native desktop application. So let's go ahead and get started. So I have a fresh Laravel app here. All I've done is Laravel new. So first thing, make sure you have Yarn installed, as NativePHP makes use of Yarn. I actually didn't have it installed on my machine, which resulted in some errors. So you can see I have it installed here. If you don't have it installed, the command I use to install it is core pack enable, and that installed Yarn for me. Next, let's go ahead and install NativePHP as a composer package. So we can say composer require NativePHP Electron. And let me just open this up in VS Code. Okay, and now we can install it using this command, PHP artisan native install. Let's go ahead and install the npm dependencies. And we'll say no to the dev server because we'll run that manually. So to do that, we can say PHP artisan native serve. And this should bring up our Electron app with the default welcome blade. And you can see it here with the DevTools opened. And here is our welcome blade. So again, we have the full power of Laravel running in a native desktop application. So let's take a look at a few files here. We have a config within config NativePHP. And for now, I'll just keep everything as default. We have our native app service provider, which sort of bootstraps our application. So if I were to take a look here, you can see we have our menu, which is adding some default menu items here. And we are opening the window with this size here. And there are some other options here, which I will get rid of just to keep it simple. Okay. So if you make any changes in here, then it will automatically reload the Electron app. So let's make our app smaller, 400 by 400, save. You can see that it automatically reloads. Now DevTools opening is pretty annoying every time. So we can close it here. We can say show dev tools false. Save that. Now it's off. And one more thing you might want to add to the window is if you move this and save it, by default, it does not remember the position. But if you want it to remember, then go ahead and add remember state. Remember state. Okay. Save that. And you can see it's in the same spot. Now, in terms of automatically reloading other files like our welcome blade, you have to set up Vite to get that working. So let me go to our welcome blade. Let me close the sidebar for now. Welcome blade. Let's go to documentation here. Documentation, okay. Let's add some exclamation marks. Save. And it scrolled down because it formatted it. Documentation. But you can see that it did not update here. So again, we have to set up Vite for this. So for now, let me just remove everything here. Let's make a default HTML page, say NativePHP. And for now, we'll just say div hello there. Okay. Save that. Again, it doesn't update here. And you would think you can reload here manually. And you can, but you have to set up the default application menu for that. And I'll show you that later on. So I'm hitting Command R here and it's not reloading. So again, we have to set up Vite for this, same way you would in a typical Laravel application. So we can make use of the Vite directive within our head tag. So Vite resources JS app.js. And we also have to make sure that Vite is running in our terminal. So I'm going to open up my terminal here. Let's stop this. I'll make another tab here with a vertical split. And this one will be responsible for running Vite. So npm run dev. Vite not found, npm install. Okay, let's run Vite now. Let's make sure our native serve is running as well. And now you see our boilerplate app here. Let's make a change. Hello there with exclamation marks. And it does update. So again, we have a full Laravel application running within the context of a native desktop application. So how about we just add another page here? Let's say div about an about page. Let's say about, save that. Let's go ahead and make that route. So let's go to our routes file. Let me just get rid of this. I'll make use of route view here. We're going to /about, and the blade view for that I'll make is called about. So let's go to our welcome blade, and let me just duplicate this. Duplicate about.blade, and let's say we'll change this to home so we can navigate back, because our native desktop application does not have a location bar. So be sure to keep that in mind and make sure your navigation is in place for each page. And let's say about page here. Okay, let me save that. Let's hit about, and it goes to that page as expected. Now, what about opening another window? Within the context of a web app, you don't really think about opening new windows, but within a desktop app, that's something common you might do. So if you go back to the documentation, we have a section for Windows here, and it's the opening windows. And we're already opening the default one within our service provider, and we can open another one within there. And you can also do things like pass it a route. So how about we open a new window with the about page we just created, open by default. So let me copy this. Let's go back to our code. Let's go back to our native app service provider. Let's paste that in, and we have to give it an ID. And by default, I believe the ID is main if you don't pass it a param. But in this case, let's say window open about. Let's make it even bigger so you can see it open above our current window. And we don't want DevTools. So let me put that there. Oh, and we want to open the about page by default. So we can say route about. And we have to make sure to give our route a name. So right here, we can say name about. Okay, save that. Let's save this as well. And now you can see we have two windows opened, the default one and the new one we just created, which opens the about route. Now, what if we want to do this programmatically, say when we click a button? So let's go ahead and do that. So let me close this. Let's cut this. And how about we make another button, or I guess a link in this case, right here. So let's go back to our welcome blade. Let's make another link here. And we have to run arbitrary PHP code here. So we can go to another route here. Let's say open window. And let's do that for now. Open window. Let's save that. Let's go to our routes file. We can duplicate this one. This is going to open window. And we can paste in our code to open that window. Let's make sure to import window. Should be the facade. Let's go ahead and save that. Okay. Let's open the window. And that does work. However, if you take a look here, you'll see that it navigated to /open window, which we don't want. So there are a few ways we can solve this. I think the best way would be to make use of Livewire. I think NativePHP and Livewire share the same vision of making use of PHP wherever you can. So they pair very nicely with each other. But I want to keep it simple and not install Livewire, at least for this video. So we'll just make use of query strings here. So let's go ahead and do that. So we don't want to navigate to open window. So let me just cut this again. Let's get rid of this actually. So we want to stay on the same page. So in this case, that's the home page. But we'll make use of query strings here. So let's go back to welcome blade for now. Instead of opening open window, let's just make it a query string. So let's say open window equals true. Okay, save that. And let me just make sure our window is showing the default window. So we'll go here and save that. Okay. So we're going to open window true, but it's still the main page. So we have to check for that query string within our routes file. So we can make use of the route global helper. So I meant request global helper to check the query string. So if the open window query string exists, then we can run that code to open the window. Again, this would be much easier using Livewire and WireClick to run some arbitrary PHP code, but this should work, hopefully. So let me save this. Let's open our window. Okay, that worked, but we are still on the same page here. And there's also an option to always keep this window on top if you wanted to do that. I believe the method is always on top. Save that. Let me close this and reopen it. Okay, and now you can see it's always on top. Okay, let's take a look at notifications. So native notifications on the desktop. On Mac OS, it opens up in the top right corner. So let's go to notifications here and let's see how we can do this. So pretty straightforward. We have this notification facade that we can make use of. It has a title, a message, and a show method. So let's go ahead and make use of this. So this actually didn't work for me in a previous version. Let's see if it works in this newer version. So again, we'll do the same thing. We'll call it from the main route, but we'll add a query string. So let me duplicate this. Let's make the query string variable named notification. Let's get rid of all of this. And we'll paste in our notification code. Let me save that. Oops, I didn't mean to save it. And this is always on top. That's pretty annoying. Let me get rid of that. Okay. Let me import notification. It's the facade. And we have to add this to our welcome blade. Okay. Let's duplicate this. It's notification equals true. Notification, save. Why didn't this? Oh, because I didn't save the routes file. Save the routes file. Okay. Or maybe I have to restart this. Okay. Let's try the notification here. And yeah, it still doesn't work. But to make it work, we just have to say notification new. So right here. Okay. Let's say title. And hopefully this works now. So save. Notification. And it's still not working. Okay, so it's working now. I just had a setting on my computer which I had to turn on. So if you go to your notifications, at least for a Mac, I had to turn on the setting here, which allowed notifications when the screen is being shared. And also make sure you have it enabled for Electron, which is right here. You can see it is enabled. So now if I hit notification, there's the notification right there. Cool. Okay, now let's take a look at menus here. So you saw in the default native app service provider, there were some defaults there. So native app service provider. We had some defaults here. You can see we have the app menu. So that's this right here. Sorry, let's focus this. So you can see it has the name of the application, which is Laravel by default. You can change that in the app name in .env. Let's actually do that here. Let's say NativePHP app. Save that. It should restart. And it's showing the notification again because we're on that route. I think we have to restart this. Okay, so there is the new title. You can see it here in the app menu. What else do we have here? We have a custom submenu. It's named About, and you can see it's just linking to the Beyond Code page and Simon's website here. can see that right here. Again, I have to focus this. About, Beyond Code, and Simon Hemp. And we also have a custom view menu, which allows us to toggle full screen. There's a separator, and there's also a link to the Laravel website. So there are a few other native menus we can make use of. So if we go back to the docs here, let's go to Application menu, and you can see predefined menus here. So we have the Application menu, Edit, View, Window. So how about we just get rid of everything here for now? And let's start from scratch. So what do we have if we remove everything? So open up NativePHP. And we just have this here. Actually, I guess it does register all the default ones if you don't define anything. So again, if we just want the native app menu, we can say menu new app menu and then register. Let's uncomment this. Let's say register. Okay. And we just have one. We can add, what else was there? Edit menu, I believe. Actually, before I do that, the edit menu usually has copy and paste. Right now, we cannot copy and paste using those global shortcuts. So I'm trying to copy this, trying to paste it here. You'll see it doesn't work. But once we add the edit menu, which does have copy and paste, that should work. So edit menu. Okay, save that. Reloads. There's the edit menu. There's copy, paste, and cut, and everything else. And now we should be able to copy this and paste it. Okay. What else is there? There's view and window. Again, some defaults provided for us. So we can say view, menu, and window menu. And those should be added for us. Okay, check out the menu. There we go. So again, some defaults here. And like I said at the beginning of the video, we can now reload manually or force reload with these common shortcuts. So Command R and Command Shift R. So if Vite doesn't reload, you can do it manually once you have the view menu in place. I don't think you can add to these menus. So say, for example, you wanted to add a custom menu item within the view menu. I don't think there is currently an option for that. So you would have to register it manually. So you would remove this and create your own view menu. So again, you can do that using what you see here. So let's do that. Let's grab this. Let's put it next to the window menu. Let me just clean this up. Okay, now we have this about menu after window. And it has these two links. We also have the option for a label. What's the API for that? Custom submenus. Yeah, it's just label. Let's grab this. Let's put that after our links. So label, my label, that should be fine. Okay. There it is. And I believe there's an option for something similar to a label, but you can emit your own event. So let's take a look at that. We already saw links. You can add a separator. I think I showed that already, but let's add one in between here. Okay. There should be a separator now before my label. There is. And what's the other one I wanted to show you? Event-based menu items. So again, similar to labels, but you can trigger your own event. And I believe you can also add global shortcuts here. So let me grab that. Let's paste that in. Let me just close the sidebar for now. And this should be the same as my label, but it should trigger this my event. So how about we create that? Let me use the Vite window here. Stop that. Let's say PHP artisan make event and my event. Okay. So that was created. Back to our code. Let me just import this. Okay. Okay, let me save this. We should have that within our menu now. Oops, we have to restart Vite. And now I should be able to reload here with Command R, and we can. Let's check out the menu here. We have about, trigger my event. So now this should trigger my event, but we have no listener on it yet. So nothing happens, but let's go ahead and make that work. So let's go into our event service provider. Now usually you put it within this listen array and then define a listener class, but you can do it within the boot method as well and just provide a function. So that's what we'll do here. Event, listen, we're listening for my event. Make sure to import that, okay? Class. And when that happens, say function event, we can do whatever we want in here. So how about we open a new window like we did earlier? So let me just grab that code from our routes web. So we'll just grab this. Let's paste that in here. Let's import window. Okay. Let's make it smaller actually. 200. Let's get rid of this. Okay, let's save that. Did I save my routes file? Or actually, I don't need to do that. Let me just refresh this just in case. And let's see if that works. So if I go here, about, trigger my event, and it does open that window. You can also associate a shortcut with this menu item. So again, back to the docs here. We have shortcuts somewhere down here, or hotkeys, they call it. So for the last argument, we can say the shortcut here. And you can see the list of what you can use in here. But for now, this is fine. Let's put this within our native app service provider right here. So for the last argument here is the hotkey as a string. So in this case, it's Command-Shift-D, and that should bring up our new window. So let me save that. Back here, let's check it out. It does show here on the right. So Command-Shift-D, let's try that out. And it does open our window. Cool. Okay, now let's take a look at the menu bar. You can create menu bar applications with NativePHP as well. And the way I think of it, there are two types of desktop applications. One's where you have a window opened and you work with your application in there. For example, apps like Slack, Discord, WhatsApp, or Spotify. These apps are always open and you switch to them when you need it. But there are also menu bar applications which are more lightweight and live in your menu bar. So for example, Laravel Herd, where you have quick access to change your PHP settings. Or two of my favorite menu bar applications are this weather app I have, just shows the weather, and also this calendar app, which shows a simple calendar. So again, these apps live in your menu bar and provide quick access when you need it. So I think I'll do another video on menu bar applications, but let me show you it working here. It's pretty straightforward. Let's go into our service provider. Let's say menu bar, create. So this will create an icon in our menu bar. Now you give it a window size. Let's say width, say 300, height 300, and say show dock icon. Let's make sure to import menu bar. Okay. And just like our normal windows, we can provide a route here as well, and a route name. But I'll just stick to our home route. So we should be able to see this within our menu bar. So let me save this. Okay, there's our normal app. But if we look in our menu bar, you can see we have this NativePHP icon, which you can customize as well. And here is our normal app. Again, you can do whatever you want in here and provide the user with functionality in a menu bar app instead of a window. Okay, now let's take a look at databases. NativePHP allows you to use SQLite as a database for your application. Just keep in mind that we're in the context of an Electron app, so this database will only be local for this client. So how about we create a button here, which creates a user because there's already a default user model. And how about we show all of them within here as well? So let's go to our welcome blade and let's add that. So we'll add another div here. And how about one more here? And we'll say for else. Okay. And we'll loop over our users as user. And we'll just display their name. So div user name. Okay. And if there's nothing, let's just say div no users found. Okay. So that should display no users found for now. And of course, we have an error because we have not passed in our users from our routes file. So let's do that. So for welcome, let's just pass in user all. So users is user all. Okay. Let's make sure to import user. Save that. No such table users. So we might have to restart our app here. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, it's still not working. You can see this error here. It says skipping database migration while in development. That didn't happen when I was trying it earlier. It just worked, but there is this command here. Let's try running this. PHP artisan native migrate. So we'll stop this. Let's try running that. Okay, so that used SQLite, and that should have migrated our tables. Let's try that one more time. Okay, so now it did work. We see no users found. And now let's create a button to add a user or a random user. So let's do that. Again, right within our welcome blade. Let's do it above here, div, and this will be a form. The action, let's just say user, say method equals post. Okay, we have our CSRF. And we'll have a button here, should be submit, and say create user. Save that. Okay, back to our routes file. It's /user. It's a post request. Let's add that right here. Route call post user. We don't need the request here. Usually you do, but I'm just going to randomly create a user here. Let's say, let me just move this up. User factory create. That should create a random user using factories. And we'll just return back or redirect back. Return back. Okay. And how about we add a notification as well as a success message. So we'll grab this. We'll paste that in here. Save that. Let's say user created. And I believe you have to have the message here. And let's just say details about user here. Okay. Let's save that and hopefully everything works. Okay. Let's create our user. And you can see it is adding and there is our notification. Cool. So again, just keep in mind this is a database that's local to this client specifically and not your entire application. For that, you would have another typical Laravel application on the server, which provides API endpoints for you to interact with, or for any client to interact with, whether it's a desktop app like we have here, or for example, a mobile app. Okay, now let's take a look at how we can persist settings. So like I showed you earlier, we want to have the option for a light or dark theme. So you can use the database for this, but if you take a look at the documentation, it says if you're only storing small amounts of data, then you should consider storing files instead. So you can make use of Laravel storage facade to read and write from, say, a JSON file. And I actually did that initially, but I rewatched Marcel's talk, and there is a settings facade that makes this much easier to do. And under the hood, it's just reading and writing to a JSON file. And that's not currently in the documentation. So let's take a look at how we can do that. First, let's create a page that has our settings. So let me just go to let me open the sidebar first. Let's go to our About Blade. And let's make a new page here. Let's duplicate this one. Let's say settings.blade.php. And I'm not using layouts here. You definitely should, but this should be enough to get the point across. And in the final code, I'll make sure to refactor everything to make use of layouts. So this will be our settings page. Say settings. And we have to add this to our main layout as well. Or sorry, our welcome blade, our home page. So this will be this. Let's move this down here. Let's say settings and settings. Save that. Okay. You have to add that to our routes file. So I'll add that down here. I'm going to use a callback because we might need some added functionality here. So I'll say settings. Actually, I think we don't for the showing of the page. So I'm just going to duplicate this and say settings. We have a view called settings and we'll name it settings. Okay. So let's save that. Let's make sure it goes to that page. Okay. And let's go back to our settings. And I'm just going to paste in a form here, which has radio buttons for light and dark themes. Okay, so I pasted in this form here. Again, basic form that just has two options for light or dark theme. It's posting to this endpoint here. Let me change that to settings. So we have to create that route as well. So let me save this. Let's go back to our routes file. Let's create that. So let's say route call. It's a post request to settings. And it does take in the request. So it's either going to be light or dark. And the request variable is theme. Okay. Make sure to import request from here. And you should do some validation in here, but I'm going to skip that for this demo. And we can make use of this settings facade. So settings. And we either have get or set. Again, it's just setting or getting values from a JSON file. So we can say settings, set. We want to set a key of theme to whatever's coming in. So either light or dark. So request theme. Okay. And then we want to make sure to import that. Should be this one. And we can return back to the home page. So let's say return, redirect back to the home page. Okay. So let me save this. I'm not going to submit the form, at least for now. Let's go back to the home page. And let's just echo out settings get theme. So by default, it should be null because it hasn't been set yet. So let's go back to welcome blade. And right here, let's just echo out settings get. Or actually, we can't do that from here. We have to do it from here. So wherever our welcome blade is, let's say theme, settings, get, theme. Actually, for the second param, you can provide a default if it can't find anything. So we'll do that instead. Say light. So if this key does not exist in the JSON, then go ahead and just provide light. Save that. In our welcome blade, let's just echo out that theme variable that we're passing through. And again, we haven't set this yet. We haven't submitted the form, but it's not going to find that key. So it should show light here. So let me save this. And it's showing dark. And that's because I think it's making use of the same file I used for the demo app. So right now it is set to dark. And I'm not exactly sure where this file lives on my computer, but hopefully it should change when we go to the settings. Let's set it to light. Let's save that. And you can see it's light now. So it does update correctly. So we can make this more dynamic and make sure the correct one is checked here. So let's go back to our settings blade. And we can use the checked directive. You can see right here, I am just hard coding light as the default. But we can use the check directive. I'm just going to paste it in here and check it if the theme is either light or if it's null. And actually, I don't think we need is null because we'll pass in light if it's null. And we can do the same for the other option for dark theme. So we can do that here. And this should be dark. And we have to pass in theme to this view as well. So we actually can't use the route view we used earlier here. So where is it? Right here. We have to use a callback. So let's get rid of this. This is a get request. This is settings. We don't need this. Don't need this. We just have to return the view and pass in a theme. And you'll probably want this variable across all your views. So you would use something like a view composer to do that. But for now, I'll just do it manually. This should be settings. And we should pass in the theme here, similar to what we did above. So let me just grab that right here. Okay, save that. And now it's light. But if I change it to dark, save, dark here. If I go back here, that should work. And it's not working because I did not save. Save. And you can see it moved to dark here. So again, dark, dark, light, save, light. And it does work. Cool. Now we need a few lines of CSS to actually change it to a dark mode or a dark theme. So again, I didn't use layouts here, so I'll just do it for the default welcome blade, but I'll make sure to use layouts in the final code. How about we add class equals dark on this, and how about we add a style in here, and we'll say body dark, background, let's give it a dark background, say 222, and color white. Does that change it to dark mode? And it should be on the home page. Save this, home page, and it does. And how about we change the link color as well? So let me just grab this. Body dark A. And it's a color anything, light blue. Okay. Okay. So once we have this dark on the body, it should be dark mode, but if not, it's just standard light mode. So again, we're already passing the theme variable right here. So we can just make use of that within our class. So let's get rid of this. Actually, let's just leave it there. And we'll use it here as well. Okay, save that. Right now it's light mode. But if I were to switch it, dark, save, it does switch to dark mode. And again, this setting should persist even if I were to stop the app and run it again. And you can see it's still dark mode here. Okay, now we can start working on the example app I showed you at the beginning of this video where we pull from the Reddit API and show a bunch of posts. So if you're not familiar with the Reddit API, if you just go to any subreddit, I'm here at Rare Puppers for cute dog pics. If you just add .json to the end, you'll get all of this information in JSON format. So let's grab this. And how about we make a new route for this endpoint? So we'll make a new menu item for Reddit. So I'll put it right here. Let's say Reddit. Say Reddit. Okay. Save that. Back to our routes file. And we'll do it down here. So route call, get request to /Reddit. Okay. And how about we return a view that's named index. And we'll pass in some posts here. So say posts is posts. Okay. So we can make use of Laravel's HTTP client here to grab the posts. So let's do that. So say response equals HTTP. Let's make sure to import that. It knows which one it is. It's a GET request. I believe I still have the endpoint in my clipboard. Okay. And let's grab the posts here. So posts is response, and we want it in JSON format. And it's within a key named data and within children. Again, just look at the response here. Or if you want, you can die dump the posts. But I've already done that, and this video is getting quite long. Let's go ahead and create index. So let me bring back the menu bar. Let's go to our about blade. Let's duplicate this. Again, I'm not using layouts here, but I will refactor to layouts. So let's duplicate this, say index.blade.php. And within here, we can loop over our posts. Actually, before we do that, I am going to install Tailwind, or at least just the CDN. So I'll just paste that in here within the head. And we should now have Tailwind. Let me just make sure here. Underline Tailwind. Okay, let's go to Reddit here. And it looks like it does work. Okay. So again, we just want an image here for the thumbnail and the title. So say flex items center. So the first flex item will be the thumbnail. So I'll just put it directly in here. Let's say thumb. And let's give it a class of rounded full. Let me hide the sidebar here. And width of 20. And the second flex item will be the title. And I also had the upvotes and the number of comments in here. So we'll put it within a container. Let's say margin left of 2. So title goes here. Let's make it font semi-bold. Title here. And this is where the number of comments and the upvotes go. So this is flex as well. Let's say space X4. Let's say span ups or upvotes. It's hard-coded for now. And same for comments. Comments 4. Okay, let's see how this looks. Okay, that looks decent. And now if I passed in the posts correctly, we should be able to for each over this. And I'll fill in the dynamic data. So for now, let's for each. Should be posts as post. Let's grab all of this. Let's move it up into there. Let's save that. Okay, so it looks like it is pulling the posts correctly. So we have to fill out the image. So I'm just going to paste that in here. So let's just post data thumbnail as an array. The title is in here. And actually it should be a link because it should link to the single post page. So let me change this to an anchor tag. It should go to /posts/ID, and the ID is post data name. Again, just take a look at all of the fields from the JSON API. And for the title, it should be title, post data title. Okay. For the upvotes, we have post data ups. And for the comments, it should be num_comments. And hopefully I did that correctly. Save. And let me just say space Y here. Class equals space Y 5 or 4. But we are getting our posts from the Reddit API. And the single post should be the same. I am just going to start pasting things in because this video is getting quite long. So I'll just paste in the route for getting a single post. Okay, so I pasted that in. The endpoint is slightly different for a single post. You can see it here. We're grabbing the post info, and I'm also displaying a notification just so you can see some native functionality working as well. And we have to create this show endpoint. So let me save that. The show endpoint should be pretty straightforward. Let me bring back the sidebar. Let's duplicate our index. Show.blade.php. So we can get rid of everything in here. We don't need a for each. We don't need a space Y. Actually, we can leave that in, and I'll just paste in what I have here. Let's hide the sidebar again. So again, we're just showing our title and the actual image. Save that. And this image might not always work because sometimes it might be a video or a gallery, but it should work for most of them. So if I did that correctly, let's go ahead and try opening up one of these posts here. And you can see we do have the larger image showing here. So we can go back home. Again, if I had layouts, the dark theme should persist, and I'll make sure to do that in the final code. One more post here, and it looks like it does work, and you do see the notification come up as well. Cool. So there you have it, guys, a look at using NativePHP to build native desktop applications using Laravel and its surrounding ecosystem. Again, at the time of this recording, it's currently in alpha, but you can see it is functional and you can make working applications with it. Like I said earlier, this project is being actively developed with new versions coming out very quickly. So be sure to check it out and maybe you can be part of its development and growth in the future.